Hi everyone, it's my pleasure to host the very first session of our new AppFest festival following last year's DataFest festival. So today we will start with a small contest. If we can go on the next slide. This month, upgrade your Azure skills and you will be rewarded with a Surface device or a career monitoring sessions with one of our senior executives in Microsoft. So please join the session. Please join the challenge by clicking on the link, which will be shared in the chat. The contest is ending by end of March, 1 month from now, 25th of March to be exact. Next slide, please. This session, as I mentioned, is the very first session of our AppFest. It's a series of 6 sessions around application development, dev security, and GitHub tools. So please join the following sessions. On the 3rd of March, you will have Francesco proposing how to build secure apps on Azure, and you will have a lot of more contents in the following weeks. 1 session every week. On the next slide. Few housekeeping rules before we start. This session is recorded and can be shared. You have a Q&A panel to ask questions. We'll try to answer the question as soon as you ask them, but we will also have a Q&A session at the very end of the session, 10 minutes at the end. And today, it's my pleasure to introduce Jay Lee, our very own app innovation specialist, to talk about platform as a service on Azure and anything about containers, so Kubernetes and all the offering around containerization. Thank you very much for joining, and Jay, the stage is yours.
Thanks, Francois. All right, thanks everyone for joining us today. So today's session is basically latest and greatest of Azure PaaS and container apps. So maybe go to the next slide. In terms of application platform, there are really many choices out there for you to run your application. So think about infrastructure as a service. It's really just a basic virtual machines where you can deploy any application. And next to infrastructure as a service, we have a container platform as a service. So we have this AKS, one of the most popular managed Kubernetes in the world. Okay, AKS. And also we have this new option called Azure Red Hat OpenShift. This is the managed OpenShift. So basically we manage the infrastructure for you, so you can just run your application on top. Okay. So if you are a long-time OpenShift customer running on-premise, probably it's a good option for you to look at. Then in terms of the platform as a service, since 2013, we have this nice service called Azure App Service. Okay. So 2013, since it first came to the world, it's still, like 2022 today is still showing like double-digit growth. So App Service is the most popular PaaS service available on Azure. And basically you can run like .NET application, any Docker containers and Tomcat and JBoss. So, if you're a long-time Azure customer, I'm sure you know that App Service is the way to go in terms of the PaaS. Then we have a new service came out last year called Azure Spring Cloud. And the Azure Container Apps is just announced last November during Ignite. So today's topic is mainly about those new platform, okay? Azure Spring Cloud and Azure Container Apps. I don't think we need to actually really do more sessions on App Service because it's the most popular services out there. But Azure Spring Cloud and Azure Container Apps are actually our future. Okay, so Microsoft as a company, we are building the next level platform as a service, and those two platforms are the best example of it, and I will explain to you why. The function as a service, Azure Function. We've been enhancing the Azure Function last few years, and we have a lot of database choices out there for Azure. So like database for PostgreSQL, MySQL, Cosmos DB, Redis, SQL database, those are all there as a data PaaS. And on top of that, I mean, we have like Azure Advisor Service Bus, and the normal Azure services like AAD, Azure Active Directory, Azure Policy, Security Center, and Key Vault. Basically, we actually provide everything for developers to run and develop the application on Azure. And tooling side, of course, you must be using some IDE, VS Code, IntelliJ, right? Then you must be using some type of CI/CD, so GitHub, GitLab, Bamboo, whatever it is, and of course, GitHub is getting traction in this part of the world. So yeah, we provide like end-to-end toolings and technology for developers. Okay. So maybe App Service is not a main topic for today. Just give you a small update on what we do with App Service. So if you're new to App Service, okay, probably it's not a bad session for you, but basically App Service is giving, I mean, for developers, right? That you don't have to manage the infrastructure by yourself, and you can run any application like .NET, Node.js, Java, like PHP, Ruby, Python. You can test, you can do the blue-green deployment, and it's all managed by Microsoft. And it's actually global scale, so you can run your application in any part of the world in a very secured environment and fully managed by Microsoft. Just one update to App Service. So now we start supporting JBoss EAP on App Service. I mean, it's not just EAP, okay? So we've been supporting JBoss on App Service for many years. So we start supporting the clustered EAP on App Service. So it's finally coming in this month. Okay, so you can now run your production JBoss EAP on App Service with a cluster. Okay, that's the latest update on App Service. Right, so today, even the Kubernetes is not a main topic, I need to call out this thing because Kubernetes is, I mean, it's the most dominant platform in the world right now, right? Today, everyone is using Kubernetes and everyone is talking about Kubernetes. So why do we even need another platform, right? Why don't we just use one platform? Why don't we just use Kubernetes and run everything on top, right? So if you are well versed with Kubernetes, right? So Kubernetes is not an easy platform to manage. So this is from actually Google, not from Microsoft. But what they're saying is, despite like 6 years of progress, Kubernetes is still incredibly complex. So it's said by GKE product manager. And basically what they have seen in the past year or so is a lot of enterprise are embracing Kubernetes, but then they run headlong into the difficulties, right? So, I mean, thanks to AKS, right? Thanks to those managed Kubernetes, provisioning Kubernetes is really easy these days, right? Just a few clicks and you get the full working cluster. So managing cluster is fine, but running it on production system is still very complex, right? So you need the right set of people, right set of skills. You need some experienced operator to run, even the developers, right? They should know how to run the application properly on Kubernetes, right? You should think of like Linux prop, Redis prop, graceful shutdown, etc. Those are all things that developer should also know so that they can run the application on Kubernetes. Right, so this is just a meme, right? So learning curve of container orchestration engines, right? Mesos, Rancher, Docker Swarm, those are relatively easy to learn and operate. Where Kubernetes is like continuous, challenges ahead, right? I mean, it's not easy to operate and use. So let's say, okay, let's think about it. So what's the solution then? So we have this problem, right? So we understand that when we can agree that Kubernetes is not easy. So what we can do about it? Yeah, of course, right? Don't ever use it, okay? Just run your apps on IIS, that's it, right? Probably it's not an option for you, for sure. Or just train your dev and ops and get them certified on like CKA, CKAD, CKS, whatever it is, Linux Foundation certificate. Basically, what you're saying is you need to have right people or right team to manage and operate the Kubernetes. Okay, it's not easy thing, right? I mean, hiring talent is not that easy these days. So I mean, this is the report from CNCF. Okay, CNCF survey 2021 just came out a few weeks back. So it's very interesting. So just read that underlying statement, right? So serverless and managed services more intensively than in the past, meaning actually they are adopting more serverless technology and managed services like AKS or AKS engine. And users now don't necessarily need to know about the underlying container technology. So I think the Knative is one of the best example of it. So Knative is a platform on the platform, right? So Knative is the platform on Kubernetes where you can run serverless platform on Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is just go on the line, meaning, I mean, we're trying to remove those complexity from you, right? We're trying to help. The vendors are trying to help to remove those complexity. So make it like a serverless, so maybe like make it as a managed service to help you to run the platform easily. Okay, so that's the trend these days. So let's go back to our application platform on Azure. So platform as a service, as I said in the beginning, we will focus on two new platforms, okay? Azure Spring Cloud and Azure Container Apps. Those are platforms that build on top of Kubernetes, but you don't get to see anything about Kubernetes. So basically, it's actually the platform on the platform on Kubernetes. So you don't have to deal with those complexity of managing Kubernetes. Like you don't have to set up the autoscaler, close the autoscaler. You don't have to set up the HPA, VPA. Have to upgrade the version constantly. Like create a new node pool to do the blue-green deployment. So we do all those things on the line so that you don't have to do anything about it. Okay, so we actually abstract away the complexity of Kubernetes. So I'll speak first about Azure Spring Cloud. Okay, so this is the survey from VMware Tanzu team. Okay, so they did a survey and they asked the Spring developers, hey, where do you run your application in production? So the answer is like 44% of respondents are saying that they are running the Spring Boot on Kubernetes already. So they are running and developing and operating their Spring on Kubernetes already. And 31%, they plan to deploy on Kubernetes. So you see, I mean, this is not asking about whether you are using any platform, okay? So they ask, I mean, it's not the question about whether you are running Kubernetes. It's actually about the platform. Where actually do you run your platform? I mean, where do you actually run your Spring Boot application, okay? So basically, you don't see any like answers like Mesosphere or something else, right? They're all like speaking about Kubernetes. So you can tell that Kubernetes is the platform of choice these days, even for like Java Spring developers. So this Azure Spring Cloud is code development with the VMware team, VMware Tanzu team to be precise. So if you ask me, how do you define this platform in one sentence? This is the one, okay? So fully managed service for Spring Boot microservices. So it's not just, it's not only, it's not for the like general container platform and container application. It's specifically for Spring Boot, Spring Cloud applications. Okay. For other type of application, I will explain to you about container apps. So it's coming later slide, okay? But this Azure Spring Cloud, as you can tell by name, this platform is specifically for you to run Java Spring application. So what's there, right? What's there in this platform, okay? This fully managed PaaS for Spring Boot application, and it comes with a Spring Cloud component. If you're using config server, and if you're using Eureka service registry, those are all coming by default. So you don't have to send it up by yourself. It comes with the platform from day one. Okay, we also manage it for you. So we upgrade it for you. We make HA for you, right? Those are all done by us. And we support the blue-green deployment to make zero downtime feasible. I mean, we make you can deploy your application without any downtime, and you can auto scale your your Spring Boot application instances by matrices, by the default matrices like CPU, memory, or schedule, like Monday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. I mean, you can set the schedule. Okay, you can even integrate this Azure Spring Cloud inside your VNet, so you can make it fully private. So it doesn't have to be public cluster. And again, don't forget, this is all on top of AKS, right? It's built on AKS, but you don't see anything about Kubernetes. And that's the yeah, benefit of using Azure Spring Cloud. Yeah, so we do, I mean, all those things underlying, right? We manage this for you. Patching, support, scaling, monitoring, logging, Spring Cloud components like config server, Eureka registry, managing cluster, again, those are all done by us, Microsoft and VMware. And of course, you can use your tools like Azure DevOps, GitHub, Jenkins to deploy on Azure Spring Cloud. Yeah, I might just skip this, okay? So I'm sure you know by now. I mean, you should understand, right? I mean, managing those Spring Cloud components is also the overhead for the team, right? Those are things that you have to manage on production by yourself. So yeah, I mean, that's overhead for the team, basically. Built-in application lifecycle management, okay? So what you can do with this platform, okay? So if you see the diagram on the right, all you have to do is write your source code, okay? Write your source code and run this command here, AZ Spring Cloud app deploy, your name of service and the platform name and the resource group and source path here. So what we do is we use Tanzu build service, okay? So you don't have to actually build your application. We just take your source file, like source project, upload it to our storage account, and we build it using Tanzu build service. Basically, we compile your application, we containerize your application, and when we inject the agent in case you need it, like App Insights, Azure App Insights, if you want to integrate, if you want to use Azure APM together with ASC, we inject the agent for you, right? So you don't have to actually, do it yourself, right? So we do it. We set things up. We also bind the services in the back, like Redis, for example. If you're using Redis, if you're using MySQL, if you're using PostgreSQL, we bind the services into your Spring Boot application so that Spring Boot can auto configure those things and start using it. So we then, again, we containerize your application, Spring Boot application, when we host it on ACL and we run it on AKS, right? So at the end, again, Azure Spring Cloud is AKS in the back. So it becomes the deployment on AKS. We create a ingress for your application and we run it, okay? So I'm trying to explain in details about what's happening with this single command, okay? Azure Spring Cloud app deploy, that actually does all those things behind the scene. So what you have to do again is just write your source code. And once you're done with your source code, run this command and run your application on Azure Spring Cloud, right? At the end, it runs as a deployment on, Azure Spring Cloud, okay? So that's what happens. Yeah, I actually decided not to do the live demo today, but in case you ask, I can also do the live demo, okay? But basically, I did some screen capture for your understanding. So this is the screen, okay? Azure Spring Cloud standard tier. So you can see I have like 3 apps: Account Service, API Gateway, Balance Service, and you can see the runtime platform as a Java 11. Just for information, we support Java 8, Java 11, and Java 17, all the ATS versions, okay? And also, we are using Microsoft build OpenJDK. So whenever there's an issue with your JDK itself, we come and support, okay? Because we give the free commercial support for Azure customers using Microsoft build OpenJDK. So it comes with it automatically from day one. So I have my 3 apps. Then running instance, I have single instance, and registration status is 1, meaning, actually, I mentioned this before. This comes with the service registry, so that it shows that my services are registered in Eureka server. Okay. The last column is built-in persistent storage. So if you're familiar with Kubernetes, and for you to use volume on Kubernetes, you should use PVC or PV, right? Basically, you should use the persistent volume. So you can do the same. As Azure Spring Cloud, you can use the persistent volume, just like what you do with the persistent volume on Kubernetes. Now we go in detail, okay? So it comes with, as I said, it comes with config server. So you can supply your URI. So here, this is my GitHub URI, which hosts my configuration, Spring configuration, right? So we bind those, the config server when you start your application. So you don't have to actually, you can set the config server by yourself. So now let's go to individual settings of application, okay? So I can scale up my instance. So it's just an example of vCPU. So you can scale up your Spring Boot Java instance from 0.5 vCPU to the 4 vCPUs max, okay? So you can scale up your vCPU and you can scale your memory. I didn't actually put the screenshot here, but maximum memory you can get is 8 gigabytes for now, okay? We will be increased in the enterprise tier, but basically that's the limit for now for standard tier, okay? And scale out. So if you understand the Kubernetes scale out, right? Basically, HPA comes with 2 ways of scaling out your containers. So one is CPU based and the second is memory based, right? So you can only use 2. Otherwise, you should use the custom metrics adapter to, scale out your containers. So Azure Spring Cloud comes with the auto scaler, like a hot auto scaler, but you can use the custom matrices. So you can see on the right, you can see all the list of the matrices. I cannot show you the full list of matrices, but you get the idea, right? So app CPU usage, app memory usage, app network in, app network out, and even JVM, GC live, data size. So you can introspect the JVM matrices and you can scale out your application. And you can even schedule, as I said, you can schedule your scale out. So like Monday, Tuesday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., you can run like 10 instances, then you can scale down back to 1 instance. So you can automatically, scale out, scale in your instances. And you can do the blue-green deployment, okay? You can basically, you see, I have two names basically, right? Doesn't mean anything to you probably, but I have 2 deployments here. One is production and another is staging. So I deploy staging first and I do the test on it. So I make sure that my green deployment works as intended. So if I can feel that this is safe to go on production, I can just set as a production, okay? You see the button on the right. So I just set that as a production, then we will do the blue-green deployment. So you don't see any downtime by switching those application from blue to green. So that's the beauty of using Azure Spring Cloud. You can do the same on Kubernetes, okay? Don't get me wrong, but you can do this without actually run like kubectl command. And create connection, service connector. So, Azure has a lot of services, right? Key Vault is one of them, and PostgreSQL, like storage account, PostgreSQL, and there are a lot of services. So this is a service connector that will be introduced not only for Azure Spring Cloud, but also AKS and App Service and container apps as well. So this will be the new feature coming to every application platform on Azure. So basic idea is to give you the way to build the binding of your apps with the Azure services. So make it easier for you to use it. Okay. So if you understand the concept of Spring Boot auto configuration, this would be the most convenient feature for you. And of course, I mean, you can use, I mean, if you don't use APM yet, and if you want to see some options on Azure, we provide this thing called Azure App Insight. This gives you the end-to-end monitoring of your, end-to-end monitoring of your entire application. So you see from this diagram, or not a diagram, but we call it as an application map. So we do the service discovery. So you can see the flow from admin server to API gateway to the backend services like customer service, widget service, batch service, and to the last, they are using some sort of the SQL database and endpoints, right? So you can see the end-to-end latency. You can see the failure rate, and you can see the number of the calls, and you can even see the actual SQL command sending it to SQL, send to SQL server. So it can actually gives you the enough visibility for you to do the production debugging without any hassle. So this is also interesting if you're a heavy Spring Boot developer and if you're using custom matrices, you should know about Micrometer. So Micrometer is to basically do the counting and etc. Because basically collect the custom matrices. So you can emit your custom matrices and you can visualize it using App Insight. This is very cool. You can build your own custom metrics dashboard without using Grafana type of technology. And if you want to troubleshoot your application with Azure Spring Cloud, you can run those commands like generate heap dump, generate thread dump, and start the JFL recording, stop JFL recording, so that you can profile your Spring application. Okay. Yeah, so Azure Spring Cloud Enterprise tier. Azure Spring Cloud has 3 tiers. So first tier is basic, second tier is standard, and the last tier is enterprise tier. Enterprise tier is still in preview. We are planning to make it available by summertime. Well, timeline is always moving, right? So cannot tell the exact timeline, but we are actually working hard. So Azure Spring Cloud Enterprise tier comes with some few perks, okay? So the first thing is this extended commercial support for Spring. So now we are in February. So if you look at those graph here, 2.3 is about to go out of support, okay? So 2.3 end of support is May. Okay, end of commercial support is August 2022. So if you're not using Tanzu runtime support yet, your 2.3 Spring Boot is already out of support. Okay, so if you're keen on the commercial support of your Spring components, right? This is part of the enterprise tier, Azure Spring Cloud enterprise tier. So you can get the commercial support and you can get the support 24/7 by Tanzu team, VMware Tanzu team, and they give all the support for all those Spring components. And Tanzu build service is, of course, is part of every Azure Spring Cloud. Okay, it's not just for enterprise tier, but also standard tier and basic tier. But it comes with the partner build packs, right? In case you're using AppDynamics, Dynatrace, whatever you use internally in your enterprise, they give you the partner build pack. So you don't need to basically piggyback your agent inside your container, okay? They do it for you. And Spring Cloud Gateway is also coming as a managed service, okay? So from the survey, I saw that Spring Cloud Gateway is number 2, the most popular component for Spring Cloud components, okay? So this is more or less one of the most popular technology for Spring developers, and they actually give it as a part of the platform. So Spring Cloud Gateway, and also they give you the API portal as well. So it comes all with the enterprise tier, and they have more plan. So those are the roadmap they have. Okay, we have to be precise. So Spring Cloud Data Flow, Application Accelerator, Live View for Tanzu, those are not confirmed yet for GA in GA for enterprise tier, but we have a roadmap. Okay, so we are actually working on it basically. And so that's it for the Azure Spring Cloud, and now it's time for Azure Container Apps. Okay, so as I said again, this is also based on Kubernetes. And this is the new general purpose serverless container platform. And we announced this last November. So it's very new and it's like still very early stage. Okay, it doesn't actually show you the full potential of what this platform is capable of. But I mean, you can see the basic idea of what we are trying to do with this new platform. Okay, so Azure Container Apps is to run your application and microservices, and you can dynamically scale your application based on traffic or events, although you can even run the background jobs like batch jobs and etc. So this is the platform based on AKS again. So Kubernetes is there, but you cannot see it at all. Basically, it's like a serverless containers, and this is also coming with an open source project from Microsoft. So Dapper is one of them. I will explain in detail later on. But Dapper and KEDA and Envoy proxy, those are all coming with container apps. And we are focusing on developer productivity. So you can do the auto scaling, you can do the versioning, you can do the load balancing, load splitting, and you can do the monitoring. Okay, all you have to do is just same as what you do with Azure Spring Cloud. Okay, one command, ages container apps, and deploy your application. Rest of them, the infrastructure level are all handled by us, Microsoft. So example scenario, right? What you can do with Azure Container Apps. First thing is public API endpoints. So you can run your API type of application. You can even split the traffic between the different revision. So you can do like A/B type of testing. Okay, it's not really you can split the traffic basically so that you can do whatever you want with the with the different revision, right? A/B testing is just one of the example of it. And you can do the background processing. So it doesn't necessarily be the HTTP or API application. You can run just a like background application, like serverless or event-driven type of application. Okay, so you can even scale based on the different matrices. So event-driven processing, the background processing is also again the best example of container apps. First, you can build microservices totally based on Azure Container Apps with Dapper. Okay, so I will go in detail about individual use cases. Yeah, so this is the container apps on Azure portal. So you can see container app, like I have 4 container apps deployed on my subscription. Let's look at Ingress, okay? So container apps is just like ASC, you can deploy this inside your VNet. You can deploy the container apps inside your VNet, meaning you can make it like 100% private. And you can tell container apps that, hey, I don't want to expose my ingress, okay? Just disable my ingress. You can do it. You can limit the traffic. Okay, so the ingress traffic, you can see 3 options, right? Limited to container apps environment, limited to VNet, accepting traffic from anywhere. Basically, you can choose and control the traffic from outside. And you can, of course, choose the target port. And continuous deployment. So here I have my GitHub settings. So I can choose my GitHub repository. So here, this is my GitHub repository, my organization and branch. And also I need, of course, this is a container apps, right? I need to have my container registry. So I tell container apps, hey, host the containerized image on my ACL and use my Docker file in the repository. Okay? So basically, whenever I commit to my source repository, it will pick it up using webhook and build the new image and run it, deploy it on my container apps. So without me setting up the CI/CD pipeline myself, it does do the continuous deployment using my GitHub credentials. So revision management, right? As I said earlier, you can have multiple revisions, maybe like version 1, version 1.1, and you want to actually split the traffic to see, to be sure, like, if you want to do blue-green deployment, right, you make sure that your green deployment works as intended, right? So what you can do is you can split the traffic to see whether my green is ready to take 100% of traffic. So what I did here is I make those two different revision active, and I split the traffic like 80 to 20. So I can do some tests on that. And it has a nice integration with our API management. So as long as your container apps application expose open API Swagger definition, yeah, you can discover your APIs on top of the API management. Yeah, auto scaling. Auto scaling is also one of the best feature of container apps. Each revision of container apps can scale independently, right? You saw the different revision in the previous slide. So you can set the auto scaling rules per each revision. So you can create multiple replicas. So at the end, again, behind the scene is all Kubernetes. So we are creating the replicas based on your configuration. And you can you can add and remove the replicas. And scaling is totally handled by this thing called KEDA. So if you're not familiar with KEDA, okay, KEDA is basically the Kubernetes autoscaler. So you can scale like to any number of replicas. You can even scale to 0, right? This is suitable for you to create the event-driven kind of application on Kubernetes. And you can use the custom matrices you can see from the screen. So ActiveMQ, like Kafka, event hubs, in cron CPU, Cassandra. There are like tons of technologies out there. MS SQL, New Relic. There are like too many of them. So basic idea is, maybe I'll show this first, okay? So this is how you set KEDA on Kubernetes. Okay, so here you see that we are using CLD, custom resource definition, scaled object. Just you look at this triggers part, okay, down below. So this is type RabbitMQ, meaning I am using RabbitMQ to decide whether I scale out or scale in, okay? And metadata, I'm looking at this queue name, very specific queue name, test queue, and queue length as 2, right? So what happens is every 5 seconds, right? Following interval 5 seconds, every 5 seconds, KEDA goes to RabbitMQ. And KEDA looks at test queue and see whether the length is longer than 2. So let's say the messages are piling up, right? You need to scale out your consumer to catch up on your message. So every 5 seconds, KEDA is checking the queue length and scales out the containers. So that containers, the consumer containers. So consumers can catch up on the messaging queue, right? So this is just an example of RabbitMQ. You can do the same with other technology. So Service Bus, the PostgreSQL. So PostgreSQL, it will hold the specific table and scale out your application, the contents basically, right? So that you can quickly catch up on the message inside the database. So KEDA is the key technology inside the container apps. So you can, I know that, you can use this without container apps, but we give this like out of the box. You just need to set, max and min, the basic information. We just do it for you. You don't have to manage the KEDA, right? We upgrade the KEDA, we provide the new scalars, etc. Right? So those are all done by us. And ingress and revision, right? Inside our container apps, we are using Envoy as an ingress controller, so we can do the split traffic split, and we do the blue-green deployment. We do the zero downtime deployment, right? Just use the Envoy to shift the traffic from blue to green, right? So you don't see any downtime upgrading your application. And Dapper. So if you're not aware of this framework, Dapper is basically the open source project started by Microsoft. It's not our proprietary framework, okay? It's actually the community effort. So a lot of companies are contributing into this Dapper. So Alibaba is actively contributing into Dapper. Microsoft is one of them. I mean, you see a bunch of customers, a bunch of enterprise using this Dapper on production these days. So this is to simplify building your microservices on container platform, basically. Goal is to give you the basic building blocks, right? I mean, there are common patterns when you build microservices, and those are the like cross-cutting concerns, right? So you have to build again and again and again. So we are trying to remove those toil and give some better way to build your application easily. And this should be language agnostics, okay? So it should be used with any languages like Java, Node.js, Golang, whatever it is. It should be language neutral. And you should use all the standard, right? Not proprietary technology. It should be extensible and pluggable. So this is community driven. Again, the goal is this. So those are the basic features that you can use with Dapper. So service to service invocation. So basically service discovery is one of them. And also MTLS services invocation between services. I mean, if you ever build a microservices before, you have to understand, right? Those are things that you have to do by yourself or using like OS at the service mesh to do it. So Dapper, the idea is to give you all those things as a framework, right? Service to service invocation, state management, publish and subscribe. Like normally you must be using, MQ, RabbitMQ, or the Kafka. Service binding and triggers and actors, the observability and secrets. They're using like Key Vault and extend. I mean, basically all those things are building blocks, the common patterns when you build microservices. Yeah, so any code, any framework, Golang, Node.js, Python, .NET, Java, you can make use of Dapper today. You can run it on any infrastructure, Azure, AWS, Google, Alibaba, Kubernetes, doesn't matter. Yeah, basically you can run it on your local desktop. So, and you can test it on your laptop and you can deploy it on Kubernetes. So if you use Dapper on Kubernetes and if you use this on container apps, right? So what we do is we inject the sidecar, Dapper sidecar. So you can see in the middle, right? So your application code is working with the sidecar, Dapper sidecar, and Dapper sidecar is handling all those basic patterns. Okay, so like actor pattern, the MTLS, communication, service discovery, whatever it is, service invocation, and even bindings, right? It comes with the bindings like Event Hub, Kafka, SQS, GCP pops up, right? So you don't have to actually directly deal with those technology. You can just deal with Dapper, use the Dapper interface to talk to those bindings. So at the end, right, you can just easily switch between different services like Kafka to Event Hub or Event Hub to SQS. Basically, it makes your microservices in a way technology neutral. Okay, so that comes again with the container apps. It's not, again, the session is not for Dapper, but I'm trying to explain to you, what Dapper can do, what Dapper can help, and also Dapper and container apps. Again, it comes with Dapper from day one. Okay? So
Jay, François, sorry to interrupt. We have quite a lot of questions on the Q&A session, so
it'll be good actually. It'll be good. So actually, I'm at the end of the slide. Okay, it's very good.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for all your questions. I'll go through your question. You can continue to ask more questions while we ask the first one. First one was how can we run a Spring Boot application as a Java application?
Oh, okay. How can you run Spring Boot application as a
Java application? I think it was during the session with Spring Cloud, and I'm not sure if it's.
Yeah, let me go back actually. Okay. I'm trying not to, it's like switch different screens. I would have done actually the real demo, but yeah. So yeah, I actually explained to you before. Run this command, right? AG Spring Cloud app deploy. This will deploy your Spring Boot project. Whether it's a Gradle or Maven, doesn't matter. Just deploy your entire source project to Azure Spring Cloud. It's like a magic actually. Azure Spring Cloud app deploy.
And the second question, I think related to this was also, can I create my own service bindings for database or other services? Right?
Yes, you
can. Even if it's not provided by Azure?
Yeah, that's right. You can. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Third question was on Spring Cloud specifically, and it's for Spring Boot specifically. In such case, do application developers need to be aware what is a platform underneath, whether it's Kubernetes, Mesos, or Bear, Docker, or the application? Does it matter? Right.
So yeah, I always get this question from the customer. The first question they ask is, we are planning to use Kubernetes, and I heard you guys have this thing called Azure Spring Cloud. It sounds really good because we are like 100% Java Spring user, but it seems that Azure Spring Cloud is like proprietary, so we don't want to use it. So my answer to them is, if you see the actual process, because I have done the demo today, but at least if you see the demo and the flow, right? We don't use any proprietary ASC specific technology here. We are using entirely just Spring Boot, Spring Cloud, and under the hood, we are using Kubernetes semantics, right? Even if you don't see it, we are using all those, the basic features of Spring Boot and Kubernetes. So I wouldn't worry much about the proprietary perspective of it.
Another question from Carlos is, can I deploy and route the traffic to use my own API gateway? I guess same, it's in front of a Spring Cloud.
You can, yes, of course you can. So what I would do is I will place container apps, right, or the Azure Spring Cloud inside my VNet, and also I place my Azure API management inside my VNet, and I can integrate together.
Next question is everything, all the demo and I think all the Spring Cloud and observability is available through the CLI?
I think I need more context. If you're, okay, the question is about seeing the actual value from CLI, or I need actually more context on it. You can set things up using CLI, yes, but getting the metrics from CLI, if that is your question, I'm sorry, cannot.
Next question will be, can we support MariaDB in KEDA? Doing the demo.
Oh, yes, yes, yep.
And the latest question asked is,
sorry.
Is container apps available in South Asia region?
So good question. So I said in the beginning, I know maybe it's too early to show this to you. I was thinking probably isn't it too early for showcase this, but yes. So it's still in very early stage. So it might not be available in your region yet. So anyway, if it's available, again, we don't actually recommend the customers to use it on production. At least still we have a lot of rough patches. Okay, so maybe you just test it yourself in the different region, and if you like it, and you let us know. We can, expedite the rollout in case, and we can work from there. Yeah, we have a lot of things to do on UI, but yeah, we're getting there. Again, this looks really promising to me, frankly.
Right, it's definitely promising. And another question is, to them using AKS and API management, do you recommend I switch to container apps?
Oh, very good question. I wouldn't actually recommend unless, basically, I mean, I would believe your entire CI/CD and your entire process is built on AKS already. Meaning, I'm sure you have right practices and right experiences running AKS on production. So you switching AKS from Azure Spring Cloud is fine, but I don't know if you. Okay, so make it very simple. Okay, if you need the same experiences and same control as what you do with AKS, probably Azure Spring Cloud is not good solution for you. Otherwise, if you want to just get rid of all those management toil and focus on the application development itself, maybe it makes sense for you to move from AKS to Azure Spring Cloud.
So basically, if we are automate, it's all about automation, right? If automation is already in place, no need to change. But this really helps. Carlos specified more specifically on the CLI. I think was related more to the blue-green deployment or staging productions. So his question is, my question about the CLI was regarding if I can move from staging to production using CLI rather than to go to the UI and click on a button.
No, you can. Yes, you can. That you can. Yep. Okay.
One more question. Keep flowing the new questions. That's great.
Yeah,
How
can
we integrate container with VNet? Container app with VNet.
Oh, okay. So when you can only do it when you create a container apps. Okay. So it's not here in my deck, but when you create a container apps in the first place, you have a choice to place inside your VNet. So this option is there actually. Option probably is not visible on UI, but it is there, and it's in there in our API.
Thank you so much. I think we have done all the questions. We had about 20 plus questions, so thank you everyone for asking the questions. Before we end this session, I'd like to move to a few slides at the end. More specifically, we have a survey and we'd like to hear your feedback about these sessions. It really helps us to provide better service and better sessions for everyone. And we're also looking forward to see you again on the following weeks about building your apps on Azure, right? Whether it's DevSecOps or MLOps, and then a subsequent section on more on the data and security. The last session will be focused on security. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.